I'm Torsten. Today I'm going to make the claim that artificial intelligence will pose a realistic threat to humanity in the near future. So I'd like to start by giving you some background information. Artificial intelligence is a science devoted to creating a human-like thought process in a computer. Anything that allows a computer to observe, communicate, learn, or think independently is considered AI. So AI is a relatively new technology, and it's growing rapidly. Siri was released in 2011, and Google began testing their self-driven car in 2012. Those are two staples of AI that we see in current society. AI follows the exponential growth that dictates computer growth. This is given by Moore's law. Moore's law is a computer science observation. It essentially says that computing power doubles every year. Moore's law is the reason why we've gone from a flip phone to an iPhone 10 in 10 years. So these AI ideas have been around since computers have been around, but only recently has computing power gotten to the point where we can utilize these ideas. So a team from Oxford and Yale surveyed AI experts and came to the conclusion that AI will likely outperform humans at all tasks in the next 45 years. At this point, AI will have obtained a human-like thought process. This is a critical point and is what tech companies are aiming for. Beyond this point, it's expected that computer growth will skyrocket because computers will no longer depend on humans to build them. Computers will be building themselves, and those improvements will go into the building of the next improvements. And it's AI companies, tech companies, want to reach this point because that's going to revolutionize computing, and it's going to make their profits. It's going to give them huge profits. So there are many positives that AI will bring, along with just the increased computing power. It's just undeniable that we'll be able to solve problems that we can't solve today. However, there is an inherent risk that comes with creating something intellectually superior to a human. The reason humans are so comfortable today is because we are unrivaled intellectually. We are by far the most intelligent creature on this planet. With AI, humans may be creating their own replacement. The most realistic and imminent threat is economic. After, like I said, a survey showed that in 45 years, computers will outperform humans at all tasks. The results of this is likely that computers will overrun the workforce. And this will cause massive unemployment, and drastic socialist measures would have to be taken by the government to stabilize the economy at that point. And if the proper steps aren't taken by the government, the consequences could be catastrophic. If we think about long-term survival, I have to argue about hypotheticals, because humans have never been placed in a situation where they aren't the superior life form on the planet. But if we go back to that point in 45 years, when computers start to actually think as a human would, beyond that point, every year the gap between human intelligence and computer intelligence will grow. And it's irrational to think that sometime in the future, it is irrational to think that at some point humans will still be able to control these machines. And the consequence of that, there's a whole number of ways that could unfold. I think we've seen them all in science fiction movies. But yeah, it is a realistic threat, but it's long-term. So tech companies stand to profit greatly from this technology. So it's kind of a biased debate. It's a debate being held among tech executives, and most tech executives get profit from AI. But the fact that there are tech executives that are willing to speak out against AI should be a warning sign. And I'm going to end on just some quotes from some of these tech executives who share these concerns. Bill Gates, who has left his mark on the tech industry, worries that this technology will become uncontrollable. he says, first, the machines will do a lot of jobs for us and not be super intelligent. That should be positive, we manage it well. A few decades after that, though, the intelligence is strong enough to be a concern. Elon Musk, creator of Tesla and SpaceX, he has actually invested heavily in AI companies for the sole purpose of monitoring the growth firsthand. He believes AI could wipe out humanity. With artificial intelligence, he says, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. He goes on to clarify that. He says, I think we should be very careful about artificial intelligence. If I had to guess what our biggest existential threat is, it's probably that. Stephen Hawking, arguably the smartest person of his generation, not necessarily a tech guy, but he echoes similar concerns. The development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that this is a difficult point to prove. There's no debate over whether AI will surpass human intelligence or not. Both sides generally believe it will if left unregulated. The debate is over the consequences that follow. On one side, there are clear positives that the technology will bring. The risks, however, are uncertain. But again, there's an inherent risk with creating something that rivals human intelligence. And this risk may be catastrophic.
Well, the proposition is clear, but there's no layout of what the secondary structure is going to be. So issues just come up as you get to them. And that, I think, hurts the ability of the audience to keep track of how ideas are developing. I think that you do have a structure in a couple of spots. There's this economic threat that needs to be developed. You talk about long-term survivability of the human race. And then you've got this generic argument about tech experts who think that this is potentially dangerous. So I suppose that is the structure, but it's not cited very clearly in the body of the speech. And so remember, for a presentation, even though you might have very good information ideas in the speech, for an audience that's listening, they need to have it put together in a way that's easily recalled and it's digestible. And I think you can help your argument quite a bit by adding a little bit more structure to what you're talking about. The scenarios that you described, like I think you recognize that some of them are very hypothetical in nature. We're talking about something that might be happening 50 years hence, and so it's a little uncertain. You know, people make big inferences based on the statistical rule that you mentioned and how fast the computing power is getting. There's a discussion of the technological changes that have taken place in the last few years using phones, and you mentioned the self-driving cars and Siri being available as illustrations of AI that is currently in development. One of the things that I'm wondering about the computers making themselves, I assume that there's going to be a workforce that's manufacturing those kinds of things, producing the equipment, processing it, all those sorts of things. I don't know. I mean, if I'm in one of those science fiction movies, I'm imagining, the stopping point, the bottleneck here is when the human beings simply say, well, let's stop digging in the ground to get those minerals and let's see if the computers can dig that crap up themselves. Something like that. I don't know. I mean, that, like I said, it seems kind of speculative that we're talking about there. I like the section where you have at the end the tech folks. I think that probably would have been better had it been distributed a little bit more to some of those particular points. Elon Musk in particular seems like here's somebody who is very concerned about what's going on and is investing in it heavily with the idea of still trying to make the economic advantages, but also maybe kind of regulate or control those sorts of behaviors. Is such control possible? I don't know. It's an interesting speech. I'm just not sure where the argument is going in the long run, and I think it needs to be a little bit sharper. There's a lot of reading in the presentation. You're very script dependent there. I did like the fact that you had a pretty clear exit line. I thought that worked well. And then, you kind of reminded us, look, there's benefits that we're going to get from AI, but there are also uncertain risks, and we need to be concerned about those things. So I guess that's ultimately the way it's going. All right. Thank you.